webinar. This is a part of our leadership coach series. So if this is your first webinar with Forte, I'm very excited to have you here. If you're someone who's been with Forte for a while, you're probably familiar with the content in our leadership coach series. So it's really, again, just meant to be short professional development opportunities for people to learn something new is what we're hoping. And today's topic is from small talk to smart moves. How do you network like a pro? So we're actually doing a three-part series for the fall. And I'm very excited that our current speaker, Liz Young, is going to kick us off with networking. And what we're really doing for the next three leadership coaches is focusing on your network, your people. How do you grow it in a way that makes sense for you? And so the follow-up, so this one is going to be focused again on networking. The next leadership coach will be on mentorship, so talking about that aspect of your network. And then the final one is going to be on sponsorship and how do you kind of accomplish that within your network as well. So again, very excited to welcome our guest speaker here today, Liz Young. She is the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. So really, she's the perfect person to talk about this because her whole job is providing opportunities for our alumni to network, to make connections, to figure out how do you grow within your career and have like a good group of people surrounding you as you do it. So again, for those that are just joining, this is the Leadership Coach series from small talk, from small talk to smart moves, network like a pro. And with that, I'm actually going to have Liz take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alexia. Thank you all so much for being here. I am thrilled to talk about everyone's favorite thing or not, networking. So before we get started, I'm going to ask you to click the chat and go ahead and open your chat because I will be interacting or attempting to through this webinar a little bit with y'all. And I would love to poll the audience to get started. So before we get started, I know that there's a lot of words that we associate with networking, and I would love to hear from some of you. What is a word or words that pop into your head when you think about networking? Go ahead and put it in the chat for me to see. Anxiety, exhausting, relationship, draining, transactional, salesmanship. Oh, that's mine too. Meeting new people. That's great. Not sure how to approach. A lot of these words really resonate with me. I did not have the best association with networking, honestly, before starting working at Forte, where I was doing it a lot and realizing I needed to reframe what this word meant. And for those of you who already have kind of positive associations, you're already a step ahead of me in realizing the potential of what networking can be. So I get it. Oh, these are awesome. Thank you so much. So really, I want to start by reframing networking. At its core, networking is about building relationships. It is not about surface level interactions, but getting to know people on a deeper level over time. So specifically, when we think networking, it's the professional based version of building relationships, right? It's getting to know what motivates people professionally, what they're hoping to gain from being at the same networking event as you. And similarly, it goes with being vulnerable and offering your own perspectives and interests when it comes to your career as well. So this reframe really helps me understand the value of networking and how it really is just about building relationships with people in my network of professional women, men, everyone that are around me. And it can come in unexpected places too, which we'll get more into later. I did want to say it's also important to point out, especially since we have professionals on this call from all phases of life, from students and young professionals to experienced professionals, MBA women. No matter where you are in your career, you absolutely have something to offer others in networking. So drop your comparison at the door. And while your role in networking might change, maybe now you see yourself more as a mentee than a mentor. It will change over time, but you still have a valuable experience to share. You have valuable questions to ask and valuable insights to offer. So always remember that it is not a competition with other people in the room. It's all about being your authentic self. So let's get to 4 quick tips. I thought for such a quick webinar, it'd be really easy to just go through 4 tips and assign a little bit of homework so that we remember some of these. So let's get into it. My first tip, I want everyone to think just really quickly for a second. Come up with 3 or 4 people maybe in your head right now that are top of mind when you think about who is in your network. I'll pause. Who's in your network? Who comes top of mind? Now, what do you notice about these individuals, right? What do they all have in common? Do you notice that most of them are maybe from a certain phase of your career? Are they your current classmates? Are they your current colleagues? Do a lot of them have a kind of a similar background to you? You guys all went to the same MBA program. Are they in similar industries? Oh, everyone's in consulting just like me. I think it's really valuable to start here and do a little bit of a light networking analysis to realize gaps that you have in your network. When we're talking about building a strong network that's going to last you throughout your entire career, it has to have diversity in all ways. So a lot of this is coming up with maybe an Excel or a Google sheet after this call and just writing these people down, not just three or four, but 30 or 40 contacts that you can think of that are in your network, even if they're not all from a professional lens, go ahead and add them in there. Now, when we're creating a beautiful Excel networking spreadsheet, I'm curious what you think some of the columns would be, or some of the ways that you'd want to categorize members of your network. So if you could put that in the chat, that would be awesome. What are some ways you think would be helpful to categorize your network? Oh yeah, Amy already noticing some of the gaps in her network. For me, I would put school, background, industry, yeah, their current company and role, because that changes and you want to stay up to date with your network. Yeah, the strength of the connections, knowing when it's strong. Most of the network, yeah. How closely or complete strangers. Yeah, hopefully on this list there's not too many complete strangers, and these are people you've at least met or interacted with once. But I like kind of barometer of how deep your connection is with them. I also think roles is a really interesting one to include. Have they been a mentor to you before and they've provided support and coaching to you? Are they sponsors, which are individuals who would publicly advocate for you to get that next promotion? Or are they peers and colleagues, people that maybe you know from school, or other people that you really trust a lot but are at the same level as you? It's really helpful to kind of identify that. Transparency of the career growth. Awesome. So essentially, you can add whatever spreadsheet, Excel columns you want, but my first homework for you is to really create the spreadsheet. Take about an hour to do so. It doesn't have to be perfect, but start noticing the gaps. You might notice that there's a lot of women within the exact same phase of, or I'm sorry, stage of career. So they're all at the same, okay, I'm 4 years post MBA, and realize that you really don't have any mentors right now. You also don't have any connection with people who are maybe younger or less experienced, and those are the people you'll be managing soon. So it's really good to think about what these gaps are and start there when you think of how do I need to expand my network. All right, on to our next slide. So we've been talking about others. Now it's time to talk about ourselves a little bit and what we bring to the proverbial networking table. If we think back to our reframe, networking is about building relationships. So when you consider that you're going for these deeper and quality connections, you really realize how important it is to be open and authentic in that equation, right? You need to form professional relationships, and personal relationships are all about being vulnerable, and where it's appropriate in a professional relationship, sharing what you're looking to grow in, places that you're looking for support in your career. These really help form deeper connections. And obviously, you don't want to automatically go up to a new contact and say, hey, you can help me with that. But ultimately, being a little bit more transparent and showing up as your whole self to the conversation will really help break the ice and give the other person the opportunity to do the same. The second bullet here is a big one for me about being authentic. I used to struggle a lot thinking that networking was the super formal or serious thing. I personally felt like it didn't feel very me. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty casual. I'm an enthusiastic person. So feeling like, oh, I can't be that way. I have to be maybe more quiet, more reserved, more serious, really made me not want to go to networking events at all. And obviously, in this role where I'm networking with other professional women all the time, I realized that that was not helping me be confident walking into the room. And over time, I've let go of these preconceived notions of what networking has to be, who I have to be in the room, and just started being myself. So I think this is just a good reminder to not dim your light, be exactly who you are in these spaces, and that gets you way farther with deeper relationships with people who really connect with you than being inauthentic or feeling like you have to show up as someone. The last one here is to own your narrative and to practice it. I think a lot of us probably have our elevator pitch down, or at least hopefully have something like that down. Or you've practiced for the question, so tell me about yourself at your job interview. If you treat networking with new people kind of as the same sport, it shows you that it requires practice. Practice in the mirror or with friends who know you, or at other kind of lower lift opportunities to meet new people. And you'll kind of realize how you can get into this comfortable way of introducing yourself with others in a quick way, in a formal way. And when you head into that networking event, even think about why did I choose to show up and share that in your introduction with the other person. Then you can ask them to do the same, and that might actually really start you on a great conversation. So it's important to practice, even if it feels like it's similar to a pitch for a job. It's not the same thing. And you want to get a couple rounds in of really getting used to kind of the way you talk about yourself in a very quick way. My homework for this one, for putting your whole self out there, is to say yes to the next networking opportunity that makes you nervous or unsure. You're going to show up as your whole self, be authentic, and you'll walk away feeling more confident for the next opportunity, but also guaranteed with at least one new contact with someone that you connected with by being authentic. All right. When we think about networking, relationship building, a lot of the problem with this about it feeling fake or transparent or salesman-y. And we need to just keep in mind that networking is with people, right? These are all individuals. These are not just contacts that you have in your Rolodex or in your LinkedIn connections over trying to get to over 500 plus, right? That's not what this is about. It's about individual connections. So the golden rule applies, right? Treat others how you'd like to be treated. If you are asking for support, thank that person after they give it to you. You'll have so much more success networking if you take the time to really nurture relationships individually than to just go at it and feel like I just need quality or quantity over quantity. So this is one of my favorite, most recent networking stories, and I'd love to hear some of yours as well. So I was at a recent Forte networking event. We have these happy hours. They're actually like a really casual, fun way for women to meet each other professionally. And we just went around and introduced ourselves, including me. Went around, said what our roles are. Most of the other women obviously didn't work at Forte, but I said, what I did at Forte, how excited I was to be at the event. And just a few minutes after that, when everyone kind of went off and started having their individual conversations, someone approached me and they were looking at their phone on their LinkedIn app, asked me to spell my name before even, shaking my hand and introducing themselves. And then once they were done requesting me, looked up and was like, okay, so remind me like who you are and what you do. And this is just such a good example of how to not network, right? It really made me feel like undervalued. And I'm sure she wasn't thinking that way. She wasn't trying to be like, oh, I'm not interested in meeting Liz. But by really prioritizing the LinkedIn first and going in and, oh, let's share QR codes, you're not establishing a real relationship from the start. And it made me not want to be as friendly or in stuck in conversation with this person because I just didn't feel like this was an authentic person. They're looking at me for my connections, not for the value I bring to the table, even if that wasn't true for her. So for me, the second bullet is key. If you're in an in-person event, LinkedIn can wait. Don't feel like you need to whip out your phone right away, get their name down. I know it's hard not to, but wait until you've gotten to know the person a little bit to kind of ask for that. And I'd love if any of you have examples of other great ways people have introduced themselves or made an impression on you that were, a good at first impression. It'd be awesome to kind of maybe hear some of those in the chat. For this last one, sending thank yous and meaningful follow-ups. I think this is just goes along with valuing your new connections, right? It applies to after the fact. If you met someone on an informational interview with a second connection through LinkedIn, you had questions about their company, and they went out of their way to take the time to talk with you, even if you don't have their email address and you only talk for them for 10 minutes, send a thank you and send it in a timely manner within 24 hours. Sometimes I found myself stuck in this, like, oh, we talked about something and I don't quite have that material prepared. Or maybe you said you'd share your resume, but then you realize, oh my gosh, it's not updated yet. I need to update it for them. Go ahead and send a thank you. Let them know what's coming. Don't wait a week to be like, oh, I finally am getting back to you. Here's my information. You want to stay relevant and top of mind for that new contact, especially if it's someone that you think might help and support you in your career. Similarly, when you're making connection requests on LinkedIn, I think it's super helpful in your note when your friend's requesting or connecting on LinkedIn to go ahead and remind them who you were. It was so great connecting with you at the meetup the other day. I love talking about, your role and hearing more about your family and your work-life balance. Whatever it might be, it shows that you're listening and kind of developing, even if you don't have LinkedIn Premium and you put that in the follow-up message to them on LinkedIn, is really helpful to kind of tie that back for that individual so they remember who you are. So if you do reach out to them in the near future, or maybe not for a couple months, then they almost have that thread or, oh yeah, Liz was at the alumni meetup. I got it. Let me respond now. It's just a helpful way to kind of keep nurturing those contacts. So for this homework, for this tip, it is to practice your next meaningful follow-up. After this call, you're going to go ahead and send me a LinkedIn request, an email, a message, a thoughtful note of maybe what you gained from this workshop or what you're hoping to do with Forte in the future, whatever it might be. Practice on me. I'm happy to be the guinea pig and give feedback But sending these kind of meaningful follow-ups is just such a good way to stand out from the crowd and really show that you value that connection and that person as a person, not just the content. Okay, this is the last tip, number 4. We have made it, and that tip is to start now. I love that the people in this room are probably like, oh, yeah, I'm ready, because that's why you're here on this call, right? I was reading a couple of resources before giving this presentation, and one of the quotes that stood out to me was, if we create networks with the sole intention of getting something, we do not succeed. So if you wait to reach out to someone until you want something, so I'm applying for a job at Meta and my old colleague now works there and I'm going to see if they'll write me an internal recommendation, you're already behind. It is not okay to reach out to someone blindly, or it really makes it harder for that person to endorse you if you have not kept that old contact warm. So this is not about having to reach out to people all the time and send monthly updates, but try to keep some of these contacts, especially people who have been mentors, advocates, supporters of your career, keep in touch with them on a fairly regular basis. You want to make sure that maybe you're interacting if they're posting on LinkedIn, sending congratulations if they have a new update or role, or if they're writing articles, kind of react to those, or sending them messages, or if this is a closer contact, a text, just to let them know you're thinking of them. Maybe you have an update. And ultimately, when you really do need that support, let's say you're laid off and you're looking for advice, those people will be willing to step up and come to your aid. This is not someone that hasn't heard from you in 2 years, and now when you need them, you're coming back into their professional world. It's someone that you kind of put more consistently in touch with. So that's always a really helpful one. And I think sometimes when we're not looking for roles, we forget to stay in touch with old contacts. But I try to remind myself every 6 months, I look at my spreadsheet, I'm like, I haven't been in touch with 5 of these people that were so instrumental to my career before. I'm just going to send them a quick message to let them know I'm thinking of them, saw their updates, and would be happy to connect. I would say if you do have someone who has been a mentor, really stood up in the room for you, a sponsor even, I would try to have phone calls or more regular coffee chats, or at least offer to do that. Sometimes they'll be too busy, they won't be able or available, or maybe won't respond. But it really never hurts to try to reach out to someone in that way, and try to kind of make contact with them, even if they're not available to. It just shows that you're thinking of them and that you value them. So the last one, I think a lot of times, a lot of my professional connections have come in unexpected places. I think we know, like, hey, if I go to a conference, I'm going to come out with a Rolodex. I'm going to come out with new contacts. But we often overlook kind of the more casual interactions and unexpected connections we might meet in everyday life. I'd love to hear where maybe some people have made professional contact that was like super unexpected. For me, I actually a few months ago met this other woman at my gym. We just were there literally at the same time every time, treadmills 2 away from each other. And it can be like nerve wracking at first to introduce yourself, but whatever. I went up to her, said, I always see you here. We ended up chatting, and she has almost an identical role to me. Not in the same industry, but the type of work she does is super similar. And it has been such an awesome support system for me when I'm stressed about work, or I have an idea I'm trying to solve, or I'm working with volunteers. She does the same, and we've been able to kind of banter offline, not in the gym anymore. We've taken it to professional relationships. So would love to know if anyone else has similar experience, but it's kind of fun to have these unexpected connections, and professional relationships often can really come from these unexpected settings. So my final homework for you, reach out to 3 of your past connections that you haven't touched base with in a while. So check in with them, share your personal and professional updates, set up that meeting again if this is more of that high touch network contact that you really do want to keep a warm contact with. Let them know you're thinking about them and appreciate them. It will never offend someone to hear from you that are in your professional world. So that is it for me for the end of the tips and the homework. But as you can see, there's really a lot of great ways to get started with networking. And the main thing to treat this as is this is not a strategic chess game that's all about winning. It is a quality overtime relationship building exercise. And I'm really excited for all of you to get out there and start building relationships. So that is it.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. I know this has been so informative and helpful, just like reassessing your network, understanding who's in it, who's not in it, who do you want to be in it, things like that. So right now what we're going to do though is Liz shared a lot of information. So if there are any questions about the content, just wanting a deeper discussion on certain aspects of the presentation, now is the time to do it. So feel free to either put them in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll kind of go through them and read them out loud to Liz. But I do want to start with one question that came in that I think is really helpful to talk about, or at least try to figure out together. So this individual mentioned that they're looking at their network and they're realizing like, oh, I'm missing something. So maybe it's a lot of their example is they have a lot of people that are more at their level, which is not bad,
Yeah.
but they're wanting more people who might be a position above them. And so they're just like, how do you like start that given the power dynamic? So they're feeling a little bit nervous about making the first move. So I don't know if you've been in that situation, Liz, how you've approached it, or any kind of tips that you would like to share with the group.
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. And really goes back to at the beginning when we reframe networking. Everyone has something to offer. And as someone who's now more experienced in my career and probably more on the receiving end of people reaching out, asking more about my role or wanting to connect with me because I'm more experienced, I love receiving inbound requests, giving my time to talk about what I do, which is alumni engagement, right? I absolutely love receiving these. And if I don't have time for them, maybe I won't respond. But it is never offensive to reach out to someone and just say, I am aspiring to be in your role in 3 to 5 years. I would love to hear about your career journey. You will often find that people are really willing to accept those, second contact, or even if you don't have a related contact with them, accept those conversations if they have the capacity to do so, or at least send a friendly note and wish you the best. I don't think that there's any harm in trying. And I actually look to see if your alma mater has a good network of alums. So if you're not feeling like, oh man, I'm like blindly reaching out to this person who has this job I love. First of all, I vote go for it anyway. It never hurts. They will not be offended. And if they are, they won't respond and you move on to the next person. But I also think if you look at your own alumni network or the Forte network and can find people with any kind of common thread, oh my gosh, I see we both went to Rice. That's awesome. You're now at Meta. I want that role. Can we talk? Maybe say it a little bit better than that. But ultimately, I think finding maybe something in common might make you feel a little bit more confident in that outreach. Alexia, do you have any thoughts on that too?
Yeah, no, I love that because it goes back to the authenticity thing where it's like make sure you're showing your true self, because that's who you want them to see, obviously, because it's not like you want to hide who you are and you can maintain that facade the whole time. So it's really important thinking about like what you can bring to the table and remember that you have value to give to someone, even if they're in a higher position. And so I really love the idea of like I have a mentor who always talks about this of people love talking about themselves. So the idea of actually
Me
like
too.
asking someone about themselves, about their role, how did you get here? People are very comfortable talking about themselves. So asking good questions, I think, is a perfect way to start with that initial conversation and doing it the kind of like an informal connection or interview, if you will. So love that advice for sure. So we have a couple other questions that are in the chat, which is awesome. So we definitely want to try to get through as many as we can before we're done. So one thing that's coming up, and it's kind of going back to your conversation around keeping connections warm. So a couple
Mm,
of people have mentioned like they feel kind of awkward or uncomfortable reaching out to old colleagues, but they want to, but they don't know what to say. So for someone, they mentioned they have an old mentor, but they haven't talked to them in years and are realizing like, I want them in my life. Or someone's like, oh, I used to work in this industry, but I haven't talked to these colleagues, but I might want to go back to that industry. So is there
hmm
like specific, like, even if it's phrases you use or things like that, like, how would you reintroduce a relationship again?
Yeah, I actually think this is a better scenario than people that are blind or new contacts to you, right? These people already know you, they've worked with you, they likely are close to you or used to be. So I say, hey, long time no see, I'd love to connect. I think you can just call it like it is. Don't be like, oh, here are my professional updates. If you have a more authentic relationship with them and you've already worked closely together, I think it's pretty easy to acknowledge it has been a long time. So much has happened. I look at their LinkedIn. Have their roles changed? Have they gotten a recent promotion that you can congratulate them on, or completely switched function or companies? There's always something that you can kind of pull out for that person that maybe you're like, congratulations on your new role. I'd love to grab coffee sometime. I'm actually doing something completely different than when we last talked, and I'm really rethinking what I want to do next. It would be great and so helpful to touch base with a colleague that was in my shoes, that really knows me and how I work. I think kind of getting that level of like, me, you might have good advice for me. Just like what Alexi was saying, people love sharing advice and talking about themselves. So I don't think it hurts at all to say it has been a while, but I would love to connect. I think calling that out as out of the blue way to reframe reaching out to them. I don't think any of your contacts would be offended by hearing from you. And again, if people don't respond, it is likely that they're just too busy. They saw it at 10 p.m. at night and forgot. don't be offended. Just move on to the next contact that you might want to touch base with.
Yeah, I like that also, like that mind frame of like don't put too much importance on a reconnection in that sense because people are busy and know that it's not you, it's what they're doing and dealing with in their own life. And just kind of like respecting their space. So and so yeah, to like not get discouraged and keep going to the next contact for sure. So we have a couple other ones. So I'm looking at the time. I think we have time for two more questions. This one resonated with me, so I'm going to share it, but I don't know, Liz, if it will resonate with you because you're an
Okay.
extrovert. But this person identifies as an introvert, and they just mentioned that networking is really draining. Which extroverts, I'm sure, feel that way too, though, in like stressful networking events. But they just want to know, like, do you have any tips for when you feel drained and you're in a networking event, but you do want it to be an accessible experience for you? Like, what are some tips for overcoming like feeling like your battery is being drained? So you can
Oh,
actually make those connections.
I literally, after events for work, I will sit in my car for like 5 minutes in the silence. Like, and I'm an extrovert, so I imagine that it is even more so of like just full depletion of energy. I kind of go with the like, it's quality, not quantity. So for whatever you're saying in your head is success. Oh, I need to meet, I'm at this conference, I see a conference person come in. I need to meet at least 15 people for this to be successful. You do not. You need to meet one. You need to meet one other person that you relate to, that you really connected with, that you spoke to for 20 minutes and you want to keep that conversation going. To me, I think setting yourself up, being like, I really need to get to know everyone in this room, not even someone who is as catty as can be like me is doing that in these spaces. I try to meet maybe one or two or a handful of people. I also think a really good tip is if you're looking at an odd number of people, like there's three women talking, normally people kind of talk in pairs. So just forcing yourself to go up to either the person standing by themselves or like find an odd number group and go stand in that group, then people kind of naturally separate. That might be like the easiest lean into, okay, this person is obviously like not talking as much already either. So then we can start talking and form our own friendship or connection here. But to me, I think it's about just making your goals. It can be just one awesome new person that you meet. And I walk away feeling really excited when I meet someone and when I connect with them on a deeper level than just professionally too. We talk about being working moms a lot at my networking events. And I like to just talk with other women and be like, oh, we're all in the same boat. Cool. Your brain only half works half the time. That's awesome. Me too. So bringing up things that maybe don't feel as businessy right away is another tip I have.
Mhm.
Alexia, you should definitely answer this one
Yeah, I mean,
too.
honestly, like I really like the idea of like finding odd number of people because I never have used that before as far like approaching to make it more easy instead of feeling like you're interrupting a one-on-one conversation. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's great advice. I'm trying to, for me personally, I also like I love the idea of like having realistic goals for the energy level that you have. So if you know you get really drained easily, like for me, I my goal is always just one person. If I can have one connection, like meaningful connection, that wasn't just like, hi, this is my name,
Perfect.
bye. Like just actually getting to know them a little bit and them getting to know me. To me, that's a successful event, regardless of what happens with that connection moving forward. So, kind of like knowing yourself, knowing what you're able to give and what you're wanting to receive, I think is so important in the process, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Okay, so we're getting close to time. There's one final one I want to mention because a couple people have brought up this topic.
Sure.
And I think it's relevant to today's time because there's been a lot of layoffs and things like that. So a
Mhm.
lot of people are feeling overwhelmed trying to figure out like how do you talk about like oh, okay, I've been laid off and I'm looking for a new opportunity. So
Yeah.
I don't know, Liz, if you have any advice, but I do want to bring it up in case even somebody in the chat has a technique that they use for figuring out like how do you have start these conversations so it doesn't feel like an awkward like I'm laid off, do you have a job for me?
I think
Like that.
this is a great question. I was also laid off in a prior role before working at Forte. And that is when I created my self networking spreadsheet. So if you're already overwhelmed at the thought of setting up all of these phone calls with all of these past contacts and feeling like, oh, I'm about to be using all of these people, just do the Excel exercise first. You will surprise yourself pleasantly with the amount of people that you actually maybe feel like when we were talking about stronger versus weaker connections, that maybe you have strong connections with and start with them even if they're not in your industry. These are the people that will talk you up. These are your colleagues that you loved working with. I had someone at 2 jobs ago that I just loved working with her. And when I got laid off, she was one of the first people I talked to. And it wasn't because she was in an industry I was looking to get rehired in. It had nothing to do with my next job. I needed a friend, a professional friend to help me feel like, okay, Liz, you got this. Like My skills are transferable. I can pivot. I can figure this out. Okay, when was the last time I updated my resume? Shoot, that's a good question. That's what I should do next. I think setting yourself up to have some of those easier connection conversations and reminding yourself of all that you have to contribute to the professional world in general from some of your champions is really where I started. Um, it also takes time. It took me 5 to 6 months to find my next role and probably over 100 conversations. And so it is almost when I think about networking, especially if you're seeking another role already or you've been laid off, it also can feel like a full-time job. This is like where prioritizing mental health and like that balance of don't put pressure on yourself to need to find a job right away. Obviously, there's financial pressure to do that. And sometimes it's better to get a job and find the next one, even if it's not a perfect fit. But when I think about the networking, just keep going at it. But if you are emotionally done for the week, you're done. Don't keep reaching out to people. It's okay to take a break, go on a family vacation, or just do nothing for a day. You don't always have to feel like every single day you're having 2 conversations, you're submitting 3 resumes. It is like not possible, at least for me, to keep my mental health and my sanity when I was laid off, to keep doing all of those calls. So I really kind of chunked them and then would give myself a break. And ultimately, my connections did lead me to every single job I've ever had, has been through some sort of secondary connection. So I encourage you to start with that Excel spreadsheet. If you're starting to feel overwhelmed, at least just create some organized chaos for yourself in Excel.
I love that, honestly, Liz. And I think that's so good to remember that like the people in your network who they care about you. And so
Yeah.
like to having those conversations is important. And I'm even thinking of recently I had a friend on LinkedIn who mentioned that, oh, I just got laid off. And I remember working with her and loving being her colleague.
Yeah.
And there was a job position that I knew was open and I had worked at that company before. And I said, hey, you should apply here. And so I tried to make that connection. So you never know who is gonna want to step up and help. So it's so important to put that ask out there and not let that stop you, because you never know like how people may surprise you. So thanks, Liz, for sharing that. And I know we are at time because some people have also mentioned like love the content. Thank you so much. Have to jump. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up today. So I want to say thank you to Liz again for sharing your knowledge, your experience with our audience. Here at Forte, obviously, we are really wanting to make sure that the content we're delivering matters and is really applicable to your day-to-day life. And networking should be, honestly, because everybody has their own network and they're looking to develop it further. So we're very excited about that. And I don't know, could you go to the next slide, actually, Liz?
Sure.
So we do have an upcoming event that I want to mention. So our next August event is a career coach. So it's should I stay or should I go? So those it's more for people who are kind of in the discernment process of their career of figuring out like where do I want my job to grow? Is it internally, is it externally, and kind of figuring out the conversation there. So we have it on the website if you want to register. I mentioned before the future leadership coaches. There's also a series for this specifically, and that's going to be September and December. So we're going to get those on the website as soon as possible as well. But with that, again, everyone enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope